Welcome to the Creative Spin Podcast. Another episode today with another creative person. He's right over here, but you can't see him. I'm talking to you guys, but he's right over here. Hi, how's it going? Oh, you can't say anything because we're gonna have to hit that intro and come back and speak to Andy all the way in Australia. How's it going there? We'll find out soon.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Workplace One, a company offering boutique private offices, co-working spaces, and virtual office solutions, as well as meeting rooms in the best neighborhoods of Toronto and Kitchener-Waterloo. Ideal for entrepreneurs, companies, and passionate business people. Workplace One is where you want to be with your business. For more information, go over to workplaceone.com.
Andy! How is
it
going, Andy?
It's going great. Going great.
All right. I wrote some stuff here so I wouldn't forget because, I keep blaming my gray hair for all of the forgetfulness that's going on in my head. On the last episode, I kind of blamed the AirPods. So I don't know. One of the two, one of the two might be at fault. I'm not quite sure which one. But Andy, welcome all the way from Adelaide, South Australia.
Yeah, well, I'm not actually in Adelaide. I'm in Nairn, which is in the country.
Oh, okay.
But the closest capital city for working out all our time zone craziness is Adelaide. So.
Went to grab the closest bigger city right there.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
but we're talking about 15 and a half hour difference between me and you right now. This is crazy.
Yeah,
this is like, we're doing some time traveling here. Swear to God.
Yeah.
I'm still on Tuesday, you're on Wednesday. So I don't know. Things are kind of weird right now. So Andy, thank you for being in the podcast, first of all.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And we're gonna start by asking you so that everybody at home or listening in the car or wherever they're listening to this podcast knows who Andy Marshall is and what Andy Marshall is up to lately. So give us like a little, the old origin story that everybody's talking about. Give us your story, man.
Well, I suppose I kind of came up with this term yesterday, but I'm kind of a compulsive creator, and I think that was ever since like when I was a kid, and I never had the idea that you could actually make a living from that. It was always like if you're an artist or whatever, you've got to be an architect. That's about the only thing you can be.
It makes money, right?
yeah. If you want to be an illustrator. So and then I got into filmmaking. I went to film school and dropped out because it was going to cost me too much money, even though I was going to watch lots of fantastic art house films. Yeah. And I started my own traveling cinema business, which I did for 20 years. So I did actually work in the film industry for 20 years, but showing films, not making them. And then with I've recently become a father in the last 3 years or so, and having a traveling cinema business which travels all over the country isn't really kind of in line with having kids. And I had this kind of window of opportunity to go, okay, how about I try and get my career back to its creative origins, and with social media and the technology we have available today, I think there's a lot more opportunity to get your creative work out to the world. So I kind of saw the opportunity, and I had the window of time available. So I just started something on YouTube and a podcast called Fork in the Road, because my business was called Road Movie Mobile Cinema.
Okay.
And my new project is called Fork in the Road.
By the way, I love the name of it. I love it. Fork on the Road. I love it.
So when I started it, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. And I've just started to kind of branch into the idea, because I used to do a lot of storyboard artwork for the films that I was working on. And then I thought, hang on a minute, I'm spending all my nights reading kids' stories to my girls and thinking, I could do this, and you can self-publish these days.
Mhm.
And so I've been investigating into the self-publishing world.
But you've
And
always been the creative person. Like, oh, you always been drawing and being artistic since a young age, or is this something that you kind of developed as years went by?
yeah, always from a young age, but in different areas. I haven't always illustrated. Like I haven't probably illustrated for, I probably hadn't illustrated for 20 years,
Mhm.
you know, since my film projects. But I've just started to get back into that. But I really love, you know, the process of filmmaking and the collaborative process that comes. Like some of the best experiences, some of the best times of my life have been when I've um, been making my short films with, you know, you get this crew of people together. It's, you know, it's like the A Team or something, and you get all the people you love that are specialists in their own field, and you've got this one vision to create this project. And I just really um, love that atmosphere. Whereas now I'm kind of working by myself.
It's a different environment, and everything is. I mean, I see it from my own self, like all of this podcasting and all of this stuff that we've been doing lately. It's been fun, and just I think the whole concept of jumping in head first and just doing something that you like is that bonus round. Just so going back to the creative side, to the designing side. So Fork on the Road is, I mean, first of all, I love the name. I've already said this, and you should, yeah, it's good. But what I like about it is you've been able to divide it up into a whole bunch of different avenues, right? So you have your YouTube channel, you have your Instagrams, you have your podcast going on. Um, Tell me a little bit about the process and why you're dividing it up and into all of these different, I guess you can call them like mini projects on their own, because the podcast isn't really what you're doing on the videos, right? The videos are more of the design aspect and how you're drawing the book and all of that, which you'll talk about in a second. And then the podcast is more about you as an artist and just not, I'm not going to say venting out, but just talking about your day-to-day life. I guess some episodes are about venting.
Mm.
All our, listen, every artist does that. Uh, so I guess before you get into all of that, let's start with the project of the book so that we can then jump into the YouTube.
Yeah. Okay.
To
Yeah. So with the book, it's really interesting. I've been knocking around ideas of my own kids' book that I want to make, and the whole process of, like, you know, what they call documenting your journey. So me being an artist and kind of thinking out loud in public, and kind of coming up with strategies to work out, you know, finding my why, you know,
Mhm.
Simon Sinek's book and all that kind of stuff. I worked through that, going, you know, what do I actually want to do? Um, Through that, I had people in my YouTube community watching my videos, and they saw me kind of transition to wanting to create some kids' books. And one of the people that were watching what I was doing, they're called Elijah and Crumpet, which is a YouTube channel with a young boy with Down syndrome, and the dad plays the character of Crumpet, the puppet,
Mhm.
and they have an entertainment kind of information, educational channel on in the YouTube space, and they saw what I was doing, and they've been potentially thinking about creating a kids book themselves, and they saw what I was doing, and and they said, "Do you want to illustrate a book for us?" And like, so it's this amazing thing of, you just, I didn't expect it, but you put yourself out there,
Yeah.
and people are watching, and opportunities come up.
You just never
And
know who's watching you, right? That's the bottom line.
yeah, yeah. And one brilliant thing about documenting your journey and your process and putting your artwork up there is that they want me to illustrate their book. They already know how I illustrate. I don't have to pretend to illustrate like another artist.
Yeah.
They want my work. So I'm not, and as soon as I got on the phone with those guys, our conversation went straight in to, you know, like we'd been talking for years, like we've known each other for years, because we know each other, because we're watching each other's stuff.
Yeah, and it's so weird though how the way that happens on social media, especially if there's a video involved. I find that people, it's what you're saying. It's almost like you know each other, right? The whole like getting on the phone and actually speaking one to one. I think that's just an extra conversation. The conversation's already happened before, and it's like, okay, this is an old friend. I'm just going to talk to him now on the phone, but I've been talking to him forever, and I think that's the cool thing about social media nowadays, and what you're doing is a great example of for other artists as well that are, that might not be socially out there in terms of exposing their artwork and showcasing what they can do. All you need is a phone, and you're very much into that particular aspect of the phone. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of out of necessity, and I always, when I was making short films and that, I found I had this knack of finding my way around a limited budget, limited locations, limited time, all of those kinds of things, and I kind of thrive in that environment. However, if Hollywood wanted to give me a few million to make a movie, I would work with
Why
that.
not, right? Why not?
But I do kind of work well with those restrictions, and I'm thinking, because I don't have much money, I'm transitioning, mm-hmm. and also at the same time I've created my own other business unrelated to art at all to kind of support the family while I'm trying to get this art project off the ground.
Yeah.
And I thought I need to not be blowing money on DSLRs, microphones, studio lights, things like that. I thought I'm going to do it all on my phone. And it's an iPhone 6 Plus. It's an old phone. And in the hope that it might inspire others, like people go, because a lot of people go, oh, but I don't have a studio, I don't have mics, I don't have cameras, I don't have so I'm kind of saying.
I used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
Excuses. That's all it was.
And a procrastination tool. And the phone is just the phone capabilities today. You've got a film studio. I shoot and edit films on my phone. I don't need, I tried to edit a video on my computer the other day, and it was really confusing.
There you go.
It's what you get used to,
Yeah, absolutely. And your channel is quite interesting. I love the way that because a lot of the videos, especially the latest ones, you're just basically drawing wherever in your car most of the times, and that's actually showing the other side that it's not only the equipment. You don't need to go out and rent studios and try to have the best looking backdrop and all of that. The content is what really counts, and what you're putting out there for your channel is your art, right? And that's the important part. And I think that's interesting. Now, I do have a question. Why did you choose to go black and white?
I've always loved, I mean, there's a thing about personal branding and standing out and being different. So that was in the back of my mind. But I come from, in my film days, my first short film was black and white. I love noir films. I love kind of B noir kind of films and horror sci-fis from the 50s kind of era. They are so cool. The dialogue is just like, you can't have dialogue like that in films these days. And just some of the ideas that were explored in those real cheap, knock 'em out, B-grade films is it is something which I found really inspiring.
Do you find that you will eventually have to record some in color just because of the drawing itself, or what's the idea? Like, how are you going to work around that?
Yeah. I'm kind of working in two worlds. So when the actual pencil sketches which I do are in black and white. But when I've made videos which have cut to time lapses of the illustrations and that, they've always been in full color. So
you go into color on those ones.
Yeah. So the illustration world is kind of the world of color, and the real world is
the black and white. I like that. Interesting. Now let's jump into your podcast. This is something that is new to you, right? As well, like podcasting is something that you just jumped in, or is it something that you've done in the past?
Yeah, no, I haven't done it before. And I started out, well, I heard about the Anchor platform. I'm all about making things as easy as humanly possible.
Mhm.
And I suppose that's what Anchor does. As easy and as cheap, I should say, because Anchor's
Yeah,
free.
it's
And there is some
literally hit a
issues.
button and you're good to go, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some issues that they own all your stuff,
Hmm.
but you know, you look into the terms and conditions in Facebook, and it's probably exactly the same. They own all your stuff too. You know, I
The
think you,
bottom line is we own nothing anymore. It's like
yeah,
somebody else owns it. We're just living. That's it.
yeah,
But
yeah. I
how's
think
that experience been?
it's been great. It's gone through a few. It's just coming out of a lull again. The podcast. I started off by doing my content would be I would do a daily 1 minute vlog every day. This is when I first started out. It was
But that
I
was
did,
when the platform actually, when it actually limited you to 1 minute. Am I
no,
remembering this? No?
no. I was doing it mainly because I wanted to make short little videos for Instagram.
Oh, okay. Because I
And
actually thought that in the beginning, like right at the beginning, it was limiting your recording time to a minute, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, it
I
was
guess I must be
initially
wrong.
designed for short sound grabs. You're right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I came on when you could record as long as you want.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
remember jumping into to Anchor as soon as I heard it. Like I think in the first couple of days, actually. So they were
yeah.
still testing everything.
Yeah, so I was documenting every day, 1 minute, make a little square video with subtitles, which would go on Instagram,
Hmm.
and at the end of the week, I'd have 7 minutes of audio, which I would then take that audio from the blogs and make a 7 minute podcast.
There
So
you
like
go.
each of the daily ones were on a theme, um, so it kind of made sense when you heard it as a podcast.
No, for
Um,
sure. So, but
but
are you going to continue doing this the same, like in the same format? Because I know you've been doing a lot of them, or you did a lot of them in the car, just driving as you were driving, just
yeah,
things that were coming to your mind, right? Is that kind of the whole perspective of this podcast of yours?
Yeah, well, it's kind of changing now. What I'm doing now with the podcast is because I'm doing lawn mowing jobs to pay the bills. So I basically put the phone on hands free, going between jobs, and I'll just talk straight into the app and record a podcast like that. And for the last week or so, I've been doing them every day. So I've been
Yeah.
doing a daily one, and I kind of want to log my thoughts and log the progress. Um, and have that mixed in with the occasional creator chat where I'll have an interview with someone. So like, you know, so that might be an hour, but also have the daily thoughts as well. But I want to kind of put stuff daily out there on the podcast. But
We were talking off camera a little bit, and you were saying that you wanted to create something to kind of get the community, the creative community, you know, more closer together and just sharing everybody's experience. Talk a little bit about that. Like, what's that idea all about?
yeah, well, I mean, I think as an artist, especially if you're somewhere like I am, not in a bustling city, um, I can't just go to the coffee shop and meet up with some people or you know anything like that. So I was talking with a creator yesterday, and he made a brilliant comment or a tweet, basically saying that going live or recording podcasts is like the coffee shop for creators of now, you know,
It's
because
true.
you can find creators who you connect with, who you like their stuff, who you think you can relate to, and then you can have a podcast with them. You can go live with them and develop relationships, friendships, and that might even turn into creative work that you're doing together. You know, like
Hmm.
just because you're the other side of the planet doesn't mean that you know
Look at
you
us
can't
right here.
collaborate at work. And so I think. Um, it's a virtual community, but you get to pick and choose more because you've got the whole world,
Yeah.
yeah,
What are your
make
thoughts
great.
in the different communities? Because I know, I mean, obviously myself being in on all of these platforms as well, I see the difference. what do you see as the biggest difference between, let's say, a YouTube community versus a podcast community versus an Instagram community? What are the
Uh,
big differences or similarities that you see?
yeah, I would say if you want community as an artist, a creator of some kind, you need to be on YouTube, because YouTube is where it's at for community. I think because most of the other people who are on YouTube, they've got they've got channels themselves.
Hmm.
So like as they're commenting on your work and adding some input and feedback on your work, you go, oh, I might go check out what they're doing. And quite often they've got a channel as well, and they might be a travel vlogger or some or something, but they're still creators in some way.
Yeah.
And that kind of opens up conversations. Whereas podcasting, I've found, I don't know what your experience is, but podcasting, you seem to be, it's the introvert's way of getting your voice out there, because you don't know what's happening. You're
Yeah.
just like putting it out there.
Oh,
And
it depends on what type of podcast you're doing, right? Like the way I see it, for us, uh, I agree with you in terms of YouTube. YouTube for us has been the biggest gateway for our podcast. When it comes to the audio side, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Like I know how many people are listening and where they're listening from and all of that, but the feedback isn't there because a podcast isn't really built for that feedback. There is a way to do it. Obviously, you can go into your iTunes and comment and do whatever, but it's really not built for that. I think people will just listen and just keep on going on their own day. YouTube is where I get the interaction. So even though we know we're being listened to from an audio perspective, it's the video perspective, the YouTube perspective is the one that we're getting the most feedback on. And I agree with you in terms of the community, and it's interesting to see that like-minded people follow like-minded people, and it just keeps growing, because then you'll see somebody comment something and then you go, oh, that was an interesting comment that person did, and let me see what they do. And that's the whole trickle effect of finding new people and growing that community. It is, I find, a slower pace community to grow, but it is, I think, the truest community, because we're basing it on what everybody has in common. Like being artists, we have that connection. So it makes much more sense for me to follow you as a creative, because I'm a creative as well, and whatever you're outputting is something that I will be interested in listening or watching, right? And that's how I think that's why the community is so tight on YouTube, is because everybody kind of thinks in that same waveline.
yeah, and I think I'll talk about Instagram in a minute, but a great kind of companion for YouTube is Twitter,
Yes.
because then you can creators are quite interactive on Twitter. I've found, like before I was started this whole thing, I was on Twitter for my business, for the cinema business, and I was pretty much like, what do you do with this thing? And you kind of just broadcast things and no one cares. You just kind of broadcast into the into the wide open
Yeah, but
space.
when you get into that community, then it becomes something different.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of Instagram, I think it's been spoiled a lot by bots, automatic comments and things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's harder to get into because of that. But I think the live feature in Instagram, where you can have chats with people, you can do a live chat with someone in the Instagram live. The beauty of that is that if I went live with you on Instagram, all of my followers then know who you are, and then all of your followers know who I am. We're kind of clickable.
There you go. Actually, we should do one of those one of these days, so that to promote our own stuff. So I think that's the interesting part. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you what do you see in the future of your channel, of your art? Like what does Andy want to happen in 5 years from now?
Okay. Well, I want to. What I want to do is to be able to create enough passive income from my art that I'm creating, that I don't have to mow lawns. Because I'm 45 now, and mowing lawns in 35 degrees Celsius heat, like it is hard work. But it's
Yes.
something that I can do to get money straight away.
Yeah.
But if I can get out of that loop of working in menial labor jobs and entry level jobs, which I've kind of been doing all my life, I see this as an opportunity for me to be able to seriously be a creator that's living off of the
Of what you
benefits
love to do, really.
of what I've created. And so I'm trying to get faster and faster in my illustrations. I've got so many books in my head that I want to write, as well as Elijah and Crumpet aren't going to stop at one either. They've got a whole bunch that they want to do as well.
Yeah.
And so there's this thing of building up enough. I think there's a podcast or a Facebook group out there or something. It's like 20 books to 50K or something like that. And so like they've worked out this theory that if you get 20 books out there, you can make almost kind of enough money to get by. And I think with things like targeted advertising on Facebook, you can really market your books directly to the people who are going to be interested with that.
100%. I mean, social media is the best way to advertise, period, in terms of, pinpointing exactly who you want to take your product to. So yeah, for sure. I mean, if you have a book directed to a certain type of kids or certain type of story, you can really direct that really nicely to them. So I hope everything works out, Andy. And this was amazing. We're getting to our 26-minute mark, which means that we're about to have to shut this off because we only have 30 minutes to go with these cameras. I don't have Colin here today. I don't know what happened to Colin.
Can I make a quick plug?
Colin doesn't live here. I mean, why not?
Can I make a quick plug?
Absolutely. And we're going to put all of your information down below, like they say.
With the Elijah and Crumpet book that I'm illustrating at the moment, called Motivate Man, is currently in the Kickstarter phase, and so like and we've actually met our goal, but we want to obviously get as much as we can because we want to make further books as well.
Absolutely.
And it's all about inclusion, having kids with Down syndrome represented in children's books, which you just don't see much representation of. So
that's a great initiative.
Yeah. So that's for Kickstarter. We're 37 days left.
All right, so we'll definitely link you guys up. Yeah. And hopefully all of you guys that are watching us or listening to us will go down to the description, click on that link, and do what you can. I mean, that's the bottom line, right?
Yeah. There's lots of tiers of support levels. So yeah, it's going really well, but it's fantastic that it's going to get out there. Very excited.
All right. And Andy will, like I said, we'll put all your Twitters and Instagrams and YouTubes and podcasts and all of those things right on the description. So anybody that's listening or watching us, they can go click and check out your artwork and what you're doing and listen to your podcasts. And I wish you all the best. And this was a great connection. I'm so glad that we had this conversation today, all the way from Toronto to Australia. What's the name of your town again?
Nan.
Okay.
Nan. Yeah, it sounds a bit like, your nan, like your grandma.
All right. And with that, we're going to say hasta luego. And I don't know where the next podcast is going to be. We're probably going to go to the moon. I don't know, because Australia's pretty far. So I guess the next step for us is going to be the moon. All right. Thank you, Andy.
Ciao.